Vidya Patil, and I will be guiding and assisting you during this course. In the previous two videos, we have learnt about Rabindranath Tagore, who is the author of the short story, The *Kabuliwala*. Also, we have read the story and understood what the short story is all about. In today's video, we will try to discuss the different themes of this story. So, we'll try to find out what the entire story is about and what is the main message which the writer Sri Rabindranath Tagore wants to convey to his readers. So students, let us begin with today's video, which deals with the various themes which have been discussed in the story, The *Kabuliwala*. Now, we'll try to first understand what is the meaning of the term theme. The theme is a central idea in a piece of literary work. That is, it is the main idea around which the entire poem or the story revolves. It is the main message which the writer wants to convey to the reader. In the story *Kabuliwala*, we find that the father's love for the child is the main or central theme. This theme, that is fatherly love, is evidenced in the interactions which take place between these three set of characters. The first is that between the writer or the narrator and his own daughter Minnie. The second is between the Kabuliwala and his love and the way he misses his own real daughter who lives in Kabul. And the third is the relationship which develops between Kabuliwala and the 5-year-old girl Minnie. So, through these different relationships, Tagore tries to display how fatherly love is enacted in front of our eyes. So, students, the main themes which are discussed in this story are connection, fatherly love, and curiosity and growing up. Let us now look at each one of them in detail. Now, when we say connection, what we actually mean is the human connections which we make when we meet different kinds of people. In this story, Tagore portrays the human connections which transcends or which overlaps all the differences of class, caste, nations, and nationality. So, we find that Tagore feels that in spite of all the differences, one man realizes the human being in the other or is able to recognize the human feelings of the other person, then all differences are wiped out and they can relate and understand each other. That is why he says that when people learn to recognize the common humanity which flows through all of us or through each one of us, only then can we learn to truly bond with each other and we'll be able to create a better world. We can learn compassion by learning to understand the human feelings of the other person. In the story, we find that this human connection develops between Kabuliwala and the young girl Minnie and Kabuliwala and Minnie's father, the narrator of the story. Now, Kabuliwala and Minnie, when they meet each other, they are able to form a real connection in spite of the difference in their age, in spite of the difference in their nationality and their social class. So, they become good friends and they are able to enjoy each other's company. Similarly, the narrator also learns and understands when he comes back, when the Kabuliwala gets freed from the jail and comes to meet him and Minnie, he realizes that the Kabuliwala has a fatherly feelings hidden within him, and this bond of being a father and sharing the love for their daughters brings him much closer to Kabuliwala. he is able to relate to him on a human level and finally understand and sympathize with him. So students, you need to realize that even in our real life world, it is only when we learn to negate all the differences which are there between us and others, differences such as that of language, religion, sex, caste, social class, then and recognize the true human feelings of the other person, that we will be able to relate and understand the other person. This is the only way to create strong bonds with other human beings and to develop a better world. As I have already told you, the next most important theme is the of fatherly love. This is the central theme of the story. In *ಕಿᗩᗇT, Rabindranath Tagore talks about how fathers not only love their children but are also ready to go to any extent and make all kinds of sacrifices for the happiness and the safety and security of their children. He says that fathers love their daughters, especially their daughters, to such an extent when during the childhood, but then they have to learn to adjust to the fact that these daughters will soon be leaving their house and going away from them. As fathers, Rahmat, the Kabuliwala, and the narrator, that is Minnie's father, are able to relate to each other's sorrow. It is only when the narrator recognized the father hidden in behind Kabuliwala did he actually understand Kabuliwala's behavior. When Kabuliwala was freed from the prison and came to meet him, he showed him the piece of paper on which he carried the imprint of his daughter's hand. Seeing this, the narrator's eyes were filled with tears. He then realized that in all these years, the Kabuliwala had been coming and playing with Minnie in order to relive his memories or the lost time which he could not spend with his own daughter. So he finds this common ground on which he is able to relate with Kabuliwala. In the story The Kabuliwala, we find that Rahmat is able to make the journey from being away from his daughter for such a long time to being able to go back to his daughter. The narrator at the end of the story gives him 100 rupees so that he can go back to his own country and spend the rest of his life with his daughter. So, though during the entire period which he has spent away from his daughter and in the jail, he now is able to go back and maybe he will be able to develop that friendship again with his own daughter. On the other hand, we find that the narrator, that is Minnie's father, who has spent all his life with Minnie, is now getting prepared to bid her farewell as she is getting married. So he has to now learn to leave her and to be away from her. So, and allow her to grow from a child into a woman. So these nuances of fatherly love has been very effectively brought out by Rabindranath Tagore in this story. So by beginning to understand each other, both the Kabuliwala and the narrator are able to recognize the fatherly love which is lying hidden in their personalities and are able to form a bond with each other. Another important theme which is discussed in the story is curiosity and growing up. We find that in the beginning of the story, both Minnie and her father, the narrator, are bound to each other by this idea of curiosity. So, Minnie is full of questions and she wants to know so much more about whatever is happening around the world. And the narrator was ever eager to answer all her questions. They both had a very strong bond and she always would come and sit with him and try to gather more and more information from him. So they both have this zest for wonder, this zest for knowledge, which they shared with each other. Now, for Tagore, what he tries to depict in this story is that the most tragic thing which happens in the life of a human being is the loss of this innocence and this curiosity. As long as we are children, we are generally filled with the sense of awe and wonder, and we want to know more and more about the world. But as we grow up, we lose this innocence and we lose this curiosity to gain more knowledge. And this, he says, is the most tragic aspect of human nature. The narrator and Minnie are very close and they always are able to react to each other. She knows that she can get all her answers from him and he finds great pleasure in satisfying her questions. Now both the narrator as well as the Kabuliwala realize that with the passage of time and with age comes a loss of innocence and the loss of curiosity. This may be a normal part of the process of growing up, but still they both are very sad because of this fact that their daughters have lost this innocence and curiosity. The entire tragedy in the story is not so much of Kabuliwala being away from his daughter for so long or the Minnie leaving her parents' house and getting wedded. It is basically the loss of innocence, curiosity, and openness which happens when a child grows up. And Rabindranath Tagore manages to show this very beautifully through this story. The Kabuliwala is a story of human relationships and the effect of time on human emotions. In this story, we find that time has a powerful effect on human relationships. With the passage of time, we find that the Kabuliwala has to face a deterioration in his relationship with his own daughter as well as with Minnie. Though he loves his daughter a lot, because of his economic compulsions, he has to leave her in Kabul and come for a long time trying to sell his wares in the streets of Calcutta. On the other hand, in memory of his daughter, when he builds up a friendship with Minnie and has to suddenly go to jail, when he comes back after 8 years, he realizes that Minnie has completely forgotten about him and is not even able to recognize him. So, with the passage of time, we find that these relationships have been destroyed. So, time has a great effect on human relationships. So, students, in today's video, we have understood about the different themes which have been depicted in the story, the Kabuliwala. We find that Tagore has in a very nuanced manner brought out these different themes of human connections, of fatherly love, and of the loss of innocence and curiosity, which happens during the process of growing up. All these themes are very relevant for human life and will help you understand human behavior in a much better manner. So students, I am sure you have now got a better understanding of various human relationships after reading this story. I hope you like this story. Thank you.